Hey, chat.
Yes, Benny?
It's been almost 2 years since I crossed the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm still having a hard time bringing myself to edit a video about it.
Don't get too hard on yourself, Benny. You did lose a lot of your footage when your computer was damaged from the saltwater, and you accidentally formatted your hard drive.
Yeah, I'm still really bummed about it though, but I still want to tell my story, even though a lot of people thought I have vocal fry. But a lot of strangers in the comment section, they seem like really kind people, and they seemed interested in knowing more. I just don't know how to make a video about sailing if I don't have a lot of sailing footage, you know?
Engage with your audience. Answer their questions directly in the video.
That's not a bad idea, but I still wish I could show the waves and the 360-degree view of rainbows and night watches where you're the only person awake and there's a sea turtle that's dragging a trail of stars behind it in the water.
Make the lack of footage a central part of the story. Let your audience know that this isn't a story of perfect video clips or cinematic shots. A video doesn't have to be about showing every detail of sailing. It can be about how it felt. Talk about the challenges, the fear, the wonder, and what you learned from it. It's the journey of what happens when you lose all that, and you still have a story to tell.
Thanks, Jet. I think I needed this pep talk.
I'm just a calculator for your own words and thoughts.
Sounds good, Jet. Create 5 common questions people might have about sailing across the Atlantic with 5 strangers.
This is a story of girl meets ocean. The girl, Benny Foster of Salt Lake City, Utah, grew up believing that she'd never truly be happy until the day she met the one. Since the disintegration of her parents' marriage, Benny loved 2 things. The first was self-help books. The second was how easily she could scale mountains and feel connection. The discovery of Benny's third love begins on December 17th on a century-old John Alden schooner. The following episodes portray Benny's journey as she attempts to become a competent captain and family therapist so she can one day help others heal their relationships as they adventure on the open sea. She invites you to join her on this magical voyage where dreams set sail and hearts find their compass.
Oof, that last line was cheesy.
Maybe so, but it's true. Now let's dive into today's adventure and see where the wind takes us.
How do you find a crew to sail with? Well, you don't swipe right. You scroll through websites that feel like a Craigslist for sailors. It's called cruiseseeker.net, and let me tell you, it's a trip.
Atlantic crossing opportunity and sailing training. Sounds bold. Sounds adventurous. Sounds like Benny might end up stranded with a guy named Captain Ron in the middle of the Atlantic.
But the word urgent just hooked me, chat. So I sent a message. Enter Mihai, a Romanian captain I'd never met, never heard of, and at that point, probably wouldn't have trusted to babysit my sweet 14-year-old pup.
But then she did a little digging. CEO architect, catamaran skipper. Mihai didn't sound like the kind of guy who'd kidnap Benny. He sounded like the kind of guy who'd be the project manager of the whole kidnapping and make sure the ransom got paid on time.
So we scheduled a video call. Mihai showed up with another captain named Jack, 2 guys who looked like they'd seen storms and survived them. And me? I was armed with questions, doubts, and the lingering fear that this was all a terrible idea. But here's the thing. They answered every question, walked me through the plan. No weird vibes, no red flags, no questions asking about my romantic life. Just 2 captains who clearly knew what they were doing and were looking for people who had the right kind of attitude to help with watches on their crew. By the end of that call, I wasn't worried about if I'd go. I was worried about how much Dramamine I needed to pack. It is day 15 of the medical study, and it's also my last night. Tomorrow night I will be sleeping on an airplane, and the night after that I will be sleeping on another airplane, and after that I'll just be sleeping on a sailboat. So final night being stationary.
Freeze frame. That's blonde Benny, fresh off her first sailing voyage, 600 nautical miles down the East Coast. And what does she do next? Joins a medical study. Why? Quick cash, big payout, because obviously funding the next big sailing adventure doesn't just fall out of the sky.
I also just watched the movie Adrift. First, Shailene Woodley. She is such a great actress.
Side note, Benny just spent 15 days in a medical study using Hollywood as her sailing instructor.
It made me remember how terrified of the ocean I am. Oh man, there's so many aspects of it. There's the huge waves that can crush you. And then there's, the unknown. She jumps in the water and then they play this music and it sounds like a shark's gonna come get her. I don't know. If a hurricane hit and I was on a sailboat and all of a sudden I'm just stranded in the middle of nowhere and my instruments weren't working and I had to go into the middle of the ocean and dive for food, like who knows what will come up out of the deep and just...
Kids go in the water. 22 kids come out of the water. The ice cream man, he take the rest.
And my name's Bethany too, so gotta watch out, could lose an arm. After I watched Adrift, I was also curious. I wanted to see real footage, sailboats in storms with big waves, because I'm going to be in the Atlantic, crossing the entire friggin' thing. And you bet there's going to be big waves. They looked fine, but maybe they're just terrifying in real life, and I can't really understand the size of a wave.
No, Benny. You can't understand the size of a wave from Hollywood and YouTube. But going back to answering the second question, prepping for a journey with little sailing experience, that's a lesson you figured out after moving to San Diego, right?
Right. After crossing the Atlantic, I moved to San Diego and got to know so many people in the marina and the sailing community, but most of them never even left the bay. It's like they spent years researching everything about sailing, getting ready to cross the Pacific, but Catalina was about as adventurous as it got. It's like the more they learned, the more fearful they became. So sure, maybe Hollywood and YouTube aren't the best teachers to prep for a journey, but I had a few things going for me. I knew how to avoid getting seasick, I wasn't afraid to ask questions when I didn't understand something, and one huge takeaway from that first schooner voyage was this: vocabulary is king.
You can't be helpful if you don't know the terminology. So while Benny was in the medical study, she hit the books and the sailing documentaries, learning the parts of a sailboat and all the nautical terms she could. All right, a friendly reminder to all you middle-aged salty sailors who don't actually sail but love to watch YouTube and leave comments about how Benny should wear a bikini. Yeah, this isn't that video. Sure, there was cooking, clogged heads, midnight watches, and a love triangle, but mostly Benny was busy unpacking why she keeps chasing connection. As her emotional consultant/thought calculator, I suggested she talk about this. So Benny, tell us about it.
After a year living on the road in my van, I came back to Salt Lake City, hoping to find connection and stability, so I sold my van, tried to restart my marketing career, and attempted to rekindle a relationship with someone I thought knew me better than anyone. But no matter how hard I tried, nothing seemed to work out. The marketing job fell through, and I started working in wilderness therapy. It was fulfilling work, but the balance was brutal. I'd spend weeks in the field, then come home to a city where I felt invisible. And to save money, I moved everything into a storage unit and started living in my car. Because on my days off, I'd push myself to feel alive. I'd run 110 miles across the Uintas in 3 days, climbing, traveling, climbing Mount Whitney, chasing something to fill the loneliness. But over time, I don't feel like I fit in anymore. Like, even people my age, they all hang out, they do stuff together, and I feel so detached. My health deteriorated.
I look terrible, and I feel terrible. But hot dang, I have made more money hanging Christmas lights in 8 hours than I do working 15-hour days in 8 days doing wilderness therapy.
I was constantly cold, exhausted, and alone. Right before Thanksgiving, just before another long shift in the snow, I hadn't seen my family, I hadn't been invited anywhere, and I got this message from the person I'd been trying to rebuild things with. It was this nice sentiment, but it felt hollow. I was so in my head, I didn't even realize a cop had been following me for miles. He pulled me over because I was drifting out of my lane, thinking I must be drunk, but really, I was just shattered. He escorted me to a motel so I wouldn't hurt myself or someone else. That night, while I was laying in the motel room, I realized I cannot keep living like this. I needed something different. While I was on my shift, I injured my eye chasing a kid through the desert and temporarily lost my vision. For 3 days, I promised myself that if I could see again, I'd finally go sailing. I'd met a client who lived on a sailboat with his family, and he described it to me as the most connected he'd ever felt, and I wanted that more than anything. When my sight came back, I kept my promise and found the opportunity to sail down the East Coast on a century-old schooner, which led me to my next opportunity 2 weeks after that, crossing the Atlantic with 5 strangers. For someone who had struggled for so long to feel close to people, it was surprisingly refreshing to be part of a shared mission instead of trying so hard to make friends. When you're all working toward the same goal, just keeping the boat moving safely across an ocean, connection happens naturally. You don't have to force it or overthink. It's not about becoming best friends. It's about showing up for each other, watch after watch, mile after mile. And in that, I finally found the sense of belonging I'd been searching for.
Jag må leva, jag må leva, jag må leva upp till 100 år. Jag visste att leva, jag visste att leva, jag visste att leva upp till 100 år. Fy fan att leva, hurra, 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 hurra. Sen ska han skjutas, sen ska han skjutas, sen ska han skjutas i en skottkärra fram. Ja, sen ska han skjutas, sen ska han skjutas, sen ska han skjutas i en skottkärra fram. I got it. Då ska vi... I don't even know, it's kind of scary, like, it feels like I'm getting I'm gonna shoot you and put you in a wheelbarrow and go and bury you because you've been living too long. It's in your eyes, from happiness you turn into something like morbid psychopath. So you're gonna live to 100 and then it's too long. Okay, I guess it's North humor.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important announcement.
This video is brought to you by absolutely no one, because let's be honest, ads just suck. But if you want to help Benny upgrade to a laptop that doesn't freeze every time she edits, she made some really cool stickers you can buy to support her editing endeavors. Thanks for watching, and as always, enjoy the show.
I did end up like this, it was only a gift. got a French warship. What are you thinking about? Hey Jack, were you saying pink in the morning, storms are coming?
No, what was it? Red sky at night, shepherd's delight, red sky morning, shepherd's warning. Yeah, but I wouldn't say that's too red.
Like on this side though.
Oh yeah, we're getting a little bit of a reflection.
Waves are getting pretty good. Going 7.2 knots. It is at 17.7 knots. Nice. The hardest part wasn't crossing the ocean. It wasn't the sailing or the storms or the endless hours on watch. It was what happens when you put 6 people on a boat with nowhere to hide and nothing to distract you. Good morning, fellas.
Was a lie. A Jewish lie.
So it's day 15 out in the Atlantic. What else do you guys have to say? I think I kind of summed up where we're at mentally.
We're spectating a whale today. It's gonna be a whale.
Yeah, why do you think there's going to be a whale?
Feel it in my balls, girl.
Your what?
Feel it in my whaley balls. Where did I freaking come up with this shit?
How are you, Ollie?
I'm good. Oh yeah. How are you?
What are your thoughts now that it's day 15?
I don't have many thoughts. I'm sorry.
And we're gonna see land in 4 days.
In the beginning, it felt almost easy. The first couple of weeks, everyone was on their best behavior. We were polite, we were patient, we were still fresh enough to find each other's quirks endearing. But as we kept heading west, time started to warp. We'd wake up for our morning shifts and it was still the middle of the night. And your body thinks it's morning, but the sky says otherwise. After a while, you lose track of what day it is, and the little things start to get bigger. Maybe someone says something in a tone that rubs you the wrong way. Maybe you realize you're catching feelings for somebody, and you don't know what to do about it. Maybe you tell someone something personal only to hear it repeated at the other end of the boat. It all starts to stack up, and there's this unspoken truth that sits in the corner with you. We were probably never going to see each other again once we reached land. We were from everywhere: Romania, Israel, the UK, California, Sweden. We talk about meeting up someday, but deep down, you know it's not likely. It's day what?
121.
Day 69. And we are
300 miles from land
300 miles from land.
and 1,000 miles from our destination.
Would have already
2,800.
land if we went to Antigua. Correct? I wrote this in my journal one night somewhere between the Canary Islands and Cape Verde. For years, every time I saw a shooting star, I'd make the same wish. Some version of, maybe if I wish hard enough, it will finally work out. That night, though, something shifted. I wrote, during my night shift this morning, I stepped out of the cockpit to look around the horizon for any oncoming objects. Then I looked up into the sky to observe the clouds. There was a patch of clear sky that let me catch a glimpse of a shooting star. For the past 4 years, I would always think of him or of a future with a loving companion whenever I'd see a shooting star. But this time, as I'm sailing down the coast of Africa with the trade winds, I smiled and I felt excitement and peace. I thought of something different, something that is completely outside of my control. I no longer wish to be with him, nor do I waste any more of my wishes there. I wished I could keep sailing. I wish I could feel the life where people who felt lost could come out onto the ocean and find themselves again. I wished I could bring my dad out there because he's always loved adventure and hasn't had the chance to do this. And I wish that maybe somewhere along the way, there'd be someone who would want to be part of that life. Someone who can meet me here, on the water, in the work, in the quiet, and love me back the way I knew I could love them. It's strange how you can be out in the middle of a dark ocean with nothing in front of you, and that's when eventually everything finally makes sense. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel cured. But I felt ready to stop chasing the version of life I thought I was supposed to have and start building the one I actually wanted.
There's land!
Columbus has made it. He was right. He was
We're on to the Truman Show. Yeah.
Up next on Benny Meets World.
Next part of my whole sailboat endeavor, I want to learn how to build and repair yachts so that when I do buy my sailboat, I can fix it up, and then if it breaks while I am circumnavigating the globe, I can fix it.
My first morning commuting to San Diego from Tijuana for my new job.
Well, today, someone tried to break into my car. And this guy Ramos was also giving me all these different scenarios in which he could kidnap me and kill me.
This really sucks. I just have to remember, an adventure begins when things go wrong. I don't know. Problems to be solved.